Why You Should Read The Crimson Corsair and the Lost Treasure of Count Dooku by Landry O. Walker. Alright guys, before I get started, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. The Crimson Corsair and the Lost Treasure of Count Dooku is an absolutely fantastic, great short story for the Star Wars universe. It introduces the character of the Crimson Corsair, and it also adds a fun little adventure about a downshipped named Obrexa 3, and this was Count Dooku's ship, and it reportedly had kyber crystals aboard the ship. So this is the setting in the plotline for this treasure hunt, is that the Crimson Corsair and his gang are going to go look for a downed separatist ship during the time of the Clone Wars, looking for kyber crystals. They begin looking for the downed ship at the planet Foma, which I believe is a very much Dune-inspired book. It is a desert planet that has worms on it, and it has storm planets, and the way it's described definitely reminds me of Frank Herbert's Dune. Highly recommended as well. After the Crimson Corsair was able to gather up a crew, they headed to the planet Foma, where they were later betrayed by their crew because they ended up being paid pirates or paid bounty hunters for the Hutts. And what ends up happening while they get betrayed, I will leave out of context, but let's just say it involves worms in deserts and volcanoes. This is a absolutely thrill ride of a book all the way through, and eventually they end up fighting these pirates, and they have black market mining missiles. They're called kinetic missiles, and they're intended to separate particle matter from gaseous resources in volatile work conditions. So these are missiles being used to stop particles in motion, but then they later become explosive as they become to not stop, I would guess. But the way these missiles are described is super cool, and to me it just seems like a way too unnecessary explanation for the missiles that they're using, but I absolutely love it because it gives us so much depth and so much lore to the universe in this short story. And that's one of the reasons why I love this short story, is because it gives you so much lore to just dig into. And eventually they end up getting on the ship Obrecha 3, and they find CT-6116, or Kix, from Star Wars The Clone Wars. He is the last known clone trooper, and he's also in the Clone Wars briefly, and he's around Fives and Captain Rex. So it's interesting that they run into a clone trooper, and then he tells them about the events of Order 66 and that they have an inhibitor chip in them, and he needs to tell the Jedi Council so that way they're aware, and so that way they can win the war. And the funny thing is that he's been basically in a chamber of stasis, so he doesn't understand where he's where he is in the world, and that's already all happened, obviously, and all I'm gonna say is that they say that all we need is a time machine to reverse what he just said, and it's been set in motion. As we know from Star Wars Rebels, we can do time travel, and this is just sitting here in a short story that could be an interesting story for the Crimson Corsair, but I won't speculate on anything, nor do I actually want that to happen as well. But again, there's just so many little lore moments and just over explanation on certain topics in the Star Wars universe that make this story so much fun. I mean, he ends up getting super battle droids that he ends up working with him, and the way that the novel ends, I am Sidon Ithlano and I don't die so easily. It is a absolutely thrill ride of a short story, and I highly recommend reading this or doing the audiobook version of this. It's only 60 pages, so roughly an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how fast you read or if you do the audiobook. But it's highly recommended. Definitely check it out. And until next video, goodbye.